Buongiorno, ladies and gentlemen of YouTube. Your resident Darth Despondos at your service. More to give you some more insight into some bullshit. Give you some philosophy on the bullshit. Really tired today, so you have to forgive me. I'm going to talk about, and I've talked about policy before, but policy versus reality. And the problem is that reality sometimes is perceived differently by certain organizations, so therefore the policy chain is different from one organization to another. When I used to work at this other grocery store, we used to have there were other considerations in place that we never really got. Nothing bad ever happened because we knew the policy, or we knew the reality of the situation, so our policy was much more lenient. Of course, there's other things that we did that, of course, needed to be taken care of that, environmentally we needed to be mindful of because the city, and it was a health hazard. One of the things we used to do when we were at our old locations, we used to take our meat trimmings, the fat, we'd throw away, and we would dump it in the dumpster, a regular dumpster. And I mean, during the summer, it just smelled and it was nasty. And so pretty soon we had to have a rendering company come and get it, and that needed to be done. But one of the things that they used to do, because they knew the reality of the situation, even though policy-wise, or basically you weren't supposed to do it, but we knew, and they knew, that it wouldn't matter because the stuff would sell regardless of what happened. What they used to do is they used to take like hot dogs, outdated hot dogs, like that day, and they would grind it up into the ham loaf that we had. I don't know if they still do that. They probably do. They probably would not. They probably would not get away with it if they were found out about, of course, because of regulations and stuff. And I understand the regulations and I understand the red tape. But just like with companies that have, it is economically okay. This is a fact that I researched it and made sure it wasn't an urban legend, but there's statistics showing, that there are, on average, 5 rat hairs per candy bar, and on average there's like 24 fruit fly eggs per raisin or something like that, because it's economically infeasible to make it zero. The companies, if they wanted to make it zero, they wouldn't be able to. They wouldn't be able to make any money. And a lot of life is like that. A lot of it's touch and go, and policies there. You kind of got a hint, hint, wink, wink. Thing about it. You do your best. It's there on paper, and you have to practice it to the best of your ability. But ultimately, if you exercised it to its full extent, it would actually hurt more people. It would kill more people because food would be a shortage. But all in all, those guidelines in place um, you have to be mindful because you can't let it get out of control. Um, but at the same time, we've been doing quite fine with what we have had happening already. Most time, like with meat and stuff of that nature, you can tell when something is bad. You open it, you can smell it. Um, you can tell when something is not good. Um, so, like with the old grocery store I used to work at, there was always that fine line that they always used to tread because they knew the reality of the situation. They knew that hot dogs, cooked, and put in there, they're going to last a lot longer than you might think. And even here at this grocery store, we don't, we still exercise it on a much larger scale and they're much more rigid. But and for what I've understood is that with our products, the date as a company, our date regulation is very conservative. It's even when it says it expires this day, um, we don't have to worry too much about it because it's actually more. There's actually more or less days of the days that it would expire is actually would actually be longer at another grocery store, but at this one like ours is like 5 days out on a lot of our meat products. Okay, and but in fact, like another store have the same exact product, and it might be 7 days. Um, our milk, our eggs, but they do that to make sure they're not going to get to kind of cover their ass to really make sure they're not going to get a lawsuit. If that saves them millions of dollars as a large company, well, I guess they do the math. But for somebody like me, it's very hard to um, kind of get my mind, it's hard to get my mind around that when I used to work at another grocery store. I know the reality of the situation, so it's like, well, it's difficult to follow that policy. It's difficult to be mindful of that policy. And there's always people coming around to kind of push that policy, especially when somebody like myself is trying my damnedest to um, I'm doing my damnedest to actually make things work, and I don't want to cut ourselves short because of a policy, but at the same time I have to do it because I'm employed by the company to actually uphold that. That's what they pay me for, you know. So, policy versus reality is that policy is there to help you kind of work out the kinks of that reality. And because you can't always you can't always just ride the rigidness of that policy and the reality of it, because then you can enter into a danger area. But they don't want you to get that mindset that you can do that, even if you can, because then you approach larger percentages of entering the danger area. And I understand that. It's red tape, of course, but sometimes the policy is so ridiculous that the red tape just becomes a huge inconvenience. And sometimes I think they don't then they're not losing. Then their policy becomes their new reality. Um, so what you're supposed to do versus what you can do isn't always the same, but basically you just got to stay one step ahead of the spider, and that's what companies do as a rule. Because you can't control, you have policy there because you can't always control people making sure that they stick to the reality. The policy is there to offset, like I said, to offset the danger areas of the reality, even if in fact the reality one time you're fine, but you can't always tread that, because when you tread that, you have a greater possibility to enter into the danger area. Um, but it's a never-ending battle. It's a never-ending thing going on a lot. But I guess just to make sure that, to make sure that your reality is not compromised, then it is safer to do it that way. But sometimes I just have a hard time, or something happens where, oh crap, it's like, can I take a chance? Will, and if you take a chance, you could get in trouble, of course. And I just wish I had a better sensibility about that stuff. Um, I don't know. But I think the main problem though is when the policy it becomes the reality. But when you can see that it's just like, okay, this is just pointless, and it's hard, it's really, really hard to go along with it, I guess. Because I'll have different managers that'll come through, and they'll muscle the policy. One manager will muscle in the policy the way it's supposed to be, and then the next guy won't pay any attention to it because it's bullshit. Because, well, one of the things is that we have these trash compactors, okay, and they keep them locked to prevent people, from throwing things in there that shouldn't be thrown in there. One is pool chemicals. That's a big issue, because you throw pool chemicals in there, you can cause a fire. But I don't really know of anybody throwing pool chemicals away. I think that's pretty regulated the way it is. So I guess it's all about what you can prove and disprove in court. You stay one step ahead of that to cover your ass. But sometimes certain policies get in the way, and people are unhappy, and it will work for a while, but then it's like you come up with the idea, or you come up and many people will complain and say something about it, but then they don't do anything until it's too late, or they don't do anything until lots of people have quit, got upset, or something, other bad things have happened. So therefore, then you can have policy that actually does cross over into the danger area. But because it's almost like a religion, that it can do no wrong because it's the policy. It's what we've researched. It's what we know. Like I said, then you're basically, if a candy bar company is made, they can't make it zero. They can't make the 5 red hairs per candy bar zero. Otherwise, it's like, well, hey, our bottom line. But then they're aware of that. But that's the problem. Then there's that gray area of what to do. So anyway, I could go on and on and on. I'm basically kind of repeating myself, but hope you got something out of it. I'll talk to you later.